Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. Stand in line for your fix. DeMarcus and Marcus in the mix, serving you yet another round of fish and grits. June 20th, 2017. How you doing today, my man?
I'm doing all right, man. It's another day, but it just seems like it it feels like the weekend is about to be here already. The week can go
It's
by way too fast, in
it's
my
probably
opinion.
it's probably the best Tuesday I had in a while. I must say, it's
Man, I had
nothing truly special, but it just seems like one of those good days.
man, I had the worst Tuesday. I woke up this morning. I had got Xavier ready, and we was getting ready to go. My battery died. There was no cars around me to jump, so I had to call AAA. I had to get a new battery. I was just like, "Fuck this day, man." I was ready to come home. Forgot we had to record today. See, look at this. This was a terrible Tuesday.
Hey, we're gonna get it back on track though, man. For today, we got Packers super fan Marquise Wilson. How's it going today, my man?
Man, I'm outstanding. It is another day to be blessed to walk, talk, breathe, move around. If we can complain, we can complain, and it's all good with me.
There we go. There we go.
Hey,
That's
there
what I
you
like
go.
to hear. We did start off today with a little tragedy. We lost a figurehead in hip hop and prodigy, one half of Mob Deep. Died at the age of 42, man. He been battling sickle cell. It seems like a majority of his life. I'm not sure exactly when he got diagnosed. But a tidbit I did find, he was the great-great-grandson of the Morehouse College founder.
Oh, that's
That,
impressive.
that was
That's
very
what's up.
interesting. It is, man. That's black support right there, especially as far as education is concerned. But he paved the way for not for mainly G Unit, but a lot of artists from the Eastern rap frame like B.I.G., Jay Z, Wu Tang Clan, Nas, Capone Noriega, Locks, Raekwon, Q-Tip, Ghostface Killer. You can go on for days,
Hmm.
but it seemed like they really got on the map with Infamous in '95 and Hell on Earth in '96. It really put them on the map big time. Like I said, they paved the way for G Unit. I feel like the whole G Unit swagger came from Mobb Deep. But this is also a group that had a lot of history to them. I mean, with 3 million records sold, that's a number that a lot of people would kill for today. And a net worth of over $10 million. I feel like this is one of the more profitable rap groups, especially in the time where everybody spin. They was actually able to hold on to their money and build from it.
Yeah, man, and it's crazy just to hear that someone that young has passed.
I
But
know, man. 42 seems young. Yeah.
when I heard the news, I text my boy Henry, and I was just like, man, can you believe that boy Prodigy gone? I was just thinking about him the other day when I was listening to the freestyle that Slaughterhouse was doing, not Slaughterhouse, that TDE was doing on the BET cipher, and they was playing Shook Ones, and I just remember that is just the classic
Classic,
battle
man.
song for everybody to
8
rap on.
Mile. Just mind me of 8
Exactly.
Mile. The
You
whole
just
movie just came up
exactly
that
just
one.
that one track, and it
Yeah.
just they paved the way for a lot of us from the South to get a peek into the culture of what New York was all about,
Yeah.
because
That East Coast rap.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
for
Most
the
definitely.
longest it was all about what the West Coast was doing, and we had our own private culture,
Hmm.
like we talk about Mob Deep is like the face of New York back in the 90s, and NWA is the face of the West Coast, and like I was telling you earlier, like how we got UGK that was the face of, or you want to talk about it, you want to talk about the Ghetto Boys, and then Atlanta got Outkast. But it was just crazy how we were so low key that we didn't really get to see a lot of the different cultures, and we always heard about what the West Coast was doing, which you never really got a peek until Mobb
Hmm.
Deep came out with Shook Ones, and they start beefing with Pac, and you just start looking at like, man, everybody talking that gang banging over there, but New York is really smooth with it,
Yeah.
and then that made way for like your Jay Z's, your Biggies, your Big L's, and all of them to come out and really paint the picture of what life is in New York. Now,
Exactly.
I've been to New York one time, but
Uh-oh.
it's like, no, I don't got nothing bad to say about New York, but
Oh
I'm
no, no,
just
no, no.
saying,
I'm not saying that. Number one, y'all are making me feel old because I'm an old dude that grew up in the '80s in New York City. So
okay,
I identify a little bit different, and more specifically when it comes to Mob Deep, man,
Talk to us, man.
the area that they represent, Queens, the borough of New York City, Queensbridge crew, people like Nas that actually came up with
Hmm.
a Mob Deep and stuff like that. They
Side by
feel it a
side
little
with
bit
them. Yeah.
more. It's a lot of history that goes into how they came about, but not only how they came about, but again, like you gentlemen said, the way that they paved the way for a lot of
Hmm.
artists that came out of that area and came out of New York in general, and how they held the banner at the time when they had this quote unquote East Coast West Coast thing going on. Uh, to kind of hold it down for the East Coast in New York City, because you're right. At that point in time, the only thing that you really heard down here was what the West Coast was doing. They were the ones that were popping off on, media and
Mm-hmm.
videos and stuff like that. That was what everybody was gravitating towards, that G-Funk sound, Dre,
Exactly.
Snoop, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Mobb Deep was one of those guys that were kind of throwback. They kind of let you know, hey, this is kind of the cradle of hip hop. This is where it all started out. This is Queensbridge. This is how we coming. It's infamous. And yes, there will never ever be any song to me that represents like grimy, gritty hip hop, street battling. Put it out there, lay it all out there on the table. Show me what you got, and Shook Ones. Because, like you said, ain't no such thing as halfway crooks. Scared to death and scared to look. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, man.
it still hits, man. And it's one of those things that everybody in the world knows that song.
Because music don't stick to you like it did back then. It's certain songs that just stick in the back of your head, and that's one of them. That's one of those songs. When I think of hip hop, Shook Ones come right to my head.
Exactly.
Oh yes, sir.
Do you remember, DeMarcus, when we were talking about that, about how the generation of rap has changed over the time and nothing sticks like it once did? And we talk about them timeless songs and albums that you can still relate. Like you can still play Shook Ones or I Got Five on it or Today Was a Good Day, those tracks, and they still resonate with you. It takes you to the moment when you first heard it. Something like, I don't understand why I was a 9-year-old boy jamming Shook Ones, knowing nothing about this life, but it was the beat, it was the
but you
word
felt
play.
it though.
Yeah, you felt it.
You felt something. You felt like they had they lived what they was rapping about, and that's why you gave respect to them, because they went, like I said earlier, they gave you a peek into the life of what it is in New York. Like everybody was talking about dealing with the police and the West Coast and stuff, but we really wanted to see about how gang life was up in New York, because y'all was so quiet and low key. And some of my favorite come out of New York with Jay-Z and with my boy Fabulous, who always gets a underrated card.
Super underrated.
And Cassidy too.
Oh yeah, Cassidy.
And it's interesting, man, that difference between this era of hip hop as opposed to the previous generation, the previous era. For me, and I'm not trying to throw any shade to anybody or anything like that, because that's not the nature of hip hop, and that's not what produces anything positive in the movement. But the biggest difference that I see is somebody that grew up with hip hop, born in '76, grew up watching kids breakdancing in front of Albee Square Mall in Manhattan and Brooklyn and stuff like that. Like if you watch Everybody Hates Chris, that's when I lived in New York.
That's how it really was.
That's when, it was exactly like that. But going through and you looking at it, like artists back then and artists coming up like through the 90s and stuff like that, we felt the music so much because them dudes was rapping to eat. Dudes nowadays is rapping to be popular. It's a difference.
To show off, you know what I'm saying?
It's a difference. Dudes is rapping nowadays to just show off and have that bling and have that notoriety, get these likes on social media and stuff like that.
They want the image rather than the durability of their music standing out there for a long time. They just want the image.
And that's a 21st century thing, man. I tell people all the time, late 90s, early 2000s, around early mid 2000s is when it converted over from like people doing the love and the rap and the hip hop to making what I call ringtone music now. If you had a catchy hook and something to say, that was catchy, then you was good. You wasn't rated by how many albums you sold. You was rated by how many ringtones you got downloaded and stuff like that. The whole nature of the business changed when all that stuff went, and now it's so hard to come back and reconnect because the way that we go through as consumers and give these guys their accolades. You don't have people running to music stores and buying albums. You have people downloading individual songs. So the music in itself is so different. A guy that you think is so big and bad and good now, well, he's good because he has 3 or 4 songs that are out and are downloaded real hot on iTunes. Okay, back in the day, we had dudes that had whole albums that I would sit and play without skipping
a track
from front to back. You know what I'm saying? It's just different the way that it is. And, it's just, one of those things that I noticed, but again, it's no shade. It's just the nature of the business now. It's the nature of hip hop. Unfortunately, I mean, for some old timers like myself, we'll never really get used to it. I'm not gonna really ever dive into that aspect of it. And there's a lot of new school cats that I like, so it's not like it's just all garbage or whatever. But just the way that they go about promoting hip hop and forwarding the actual movement and genre is just different from the way that I had it when I was growing up.
Is it like a short list of rappers that you can name today that at least like take you back a little bit to that 80s and 90s movement?
Oh, yes.
I was gonna ask the same question.
We can go with the obvious ones. You'll always have folks like K. Dot, Kendrick Lamar. I absolutely love and respect. A lot of these polarizing cats I identify with too. A lot of younger cats try to give him flack, but I know a lot of folks in my age bracket. I'll be 41 in July. I'm a huge Drake fan.
Okay.
Drake to me represents old school hip hop in a lot of ways. He brings a lot of new elements to it, but in a lot of ways, the way that he goes about doing stuff, his rhyme structure, the way that he goes about, flowing over beats and stuff like that, it has a very old school feel to it. So
Okay.
he's always a guy that I look at. As far as like new school cats, man, I absolutely love Future.
Okay.
His last album that I listened to, Hendrix. Oh
Hmm.
man, I can listen to that front to back all day, all night. People can sit and say what they want to because I know everybody has this whole thing, this division about quote unquote mumble rap, and these guys all sound the same, and this,
But it's
that, and the
about what we
other.
like, you know. If certain
And
music attract you, people can't hate on you about that.
exactly. And my thing is this. I'm not gonna sit and sound like my mom and dad did when they used to say the same thing when I was listening to my favorite rappers coming up. Oh, it's all a bunch of jumble and they sound all the same and they just saying the same stuff over beats and this, that, and the. Well, no, because as a kid that was in the know at that time, I knew that there was a definite difference between what Scarface was saying and what Ice Cube was saying and what LL Cool J was saying. It
Hmm.
may not have sounded different to them, but I knew exactly how different it was to me. And I
Hmm.
look at it the same way with these kids. It's something that I can't identify with, and to be quite honest, don't really want to. That's out of my age bracket. You
But
young
also,
fellas got it. It's good, but it doesn't mean that it's bad because I can't readily identify with it.
but one thing I liked about your list is those are three different rappers, but it also shows that you have a certain taste. Like K. Dot, Drake, and Future, completely different, but you can always find some way to relate to their music. So I like that list, man. I like the list
Most
you came up
definitely,
with.
that's a byproduct of growing up in New York City. Man, is one of the things that people kind of don't give them credit for growing up in that time in that era with hip hop being kind of young and fresh and people were still looking at it as a fad and it wasn't really respected as a full-on music genre and stuff like that.
Exactly.
You
Hmm.
developed appreciation for everybody because you wanted to hear how everybody expressed themselves because we
Hmm.
all don't live the same lives. So with
Exactly.
that being said, I'm going to always show love to my East Coast roots because that's where I first fell in love and got introduced to rap. I'm gonna always throw shouts out to the greats that came out of the West Coast, the NWAs, the Ice Cubes. I even go through and like the old school West Side Connections, the Alcoholics, 93 to Infinity Crew. I mean, it's so many different types of rap and hip hop that come out of every area, but we get kind of predisposed to defining it by a certain area or region. It wasn't just all gangster rap that came out of the West Coast. They had conscious rappers and stuff like that too. Love those guys. I will always love that third coast rap, whether it's UGK, ESG, Scarface, Ghetto Boys, you name it. Folks don't really take the time to appreciate exactly
Exactly.
how much talent is in the South as far as the Gulf Coast. There's a
Yes.
difference between Dirty South, Gulf Coast, ATL, and then there's that Miami based
Hmm.
135 beats a minute. That's still South, but it's just a different type of flow. And I
Different
love
flavor.
that too. You know what I'm saying? If I got to get my party on, I can throw some Luke on. Somebody is gonna get up and start moving something.
Somebody gonna get it
I don't care
going.
who
Somebody
you
gonna
are. You know what I'm saying?
drop
Yeah,
that for
yeah.
that.
But that's the thing that makes hip hop beautiful, man, is because you have so many different ways to interact and impact so many different cultures and backgrounds and upbringings, and it's a unifier. Two of the biggest things in the world, ironically, for this show that brings people together is music and sports. It defies all genders, all nationalities, all uh, prejudices or anything else. It just unifies people. You see people that would never interact with each other in any other walk of life that will
Come
come
together
together in the
doing
name
music.
of
Yep.
music or in the
Yep.
name of sports.
Yep. Yep. That's
You're
true.
right.
That's true.
I can agree.
Hey, that's a perfect breakdown right there, my man. Gone too soon, Prodigy at 42, my man. But
Man, rest in peace.
already, man. We're gonna move over to a few NBA rumors and a few trades that happened. Marcus,
Yeah.
Did you see Dwight Howard get traded to Charlotte?
Bye bye, Dwight.
I did not see that. Why did no one
Because
tell me this so I could have
It
told
just
you
happened.
today?
It
it just
just
it, ju-
happened.
it just happened like
Right
literally
before we went on. It just happened.
it broke at like 8:04.
Who did Charlotte get?
Charlotte got
Miles Plumley, draft
Ooh,
pick, and I
nice.
think Marco Bellinelli.
yeah.
Hey, that's actually good for the Hawks if they wanna just stay afloat. Bellinelli, he still has a nice little three range, but Plumlee, man, he was underused already in Charlotte, so that kind of frees it up. But it does help out for the Hornets too, because
If Dwight plays his role.
if
If
he
Dwight
plays,
will play.
if he can play, if Dwight can give me first 2 years in the with the Rockets, his Orlando days or something, if he can give me 15 and maybe 10, I'm satisfied with that Dwight.
He still got to set his picks though, man. That's what it all boils down to. I don't understand why he's so hard headed about not being a pick and roll center.
He just looks so disinterested. He looks so disinterested.
He set the picks lazy. He don't roll with enough force. So it's like, man, like
he rolls timidly.
Yeah, like he don't really want the ball, but he want to sit there and post up and put his hand up, and he want 10 touches in the paint. You can't do that in today's NBA. We ain't got time to sit there and let you post up 10 times and hope that you make 5 of them.
You don't have a good enough repertoire of low post moves to want to get the ball 10 times in the paint.
He got three go-to moves,
and they all trash. And then you go to the line, you're not reliable.
Exactly, and he's trying to shoot threes, trying to practice threes. Oh man, Dwight.
Good luck with that.
That's why they trade him. Like, oh, you shooting threes? All right, man.
I think Dwight Howard
shoot threes with Jordan.
I just really don't know if he's gonna make the Hall of Fame. Like, I know he has the Defensive Player of the Year's awards, and he did take over that Orlando squad. They did tailor make that team around him, and he did take him to the finals. But I don't know, man. What's that?
Dwight Howard making the Hall of Fame is going to be dependent on if a lot of other folks that are similar, like a Ben Wallace or Rasheed Wallace, make the Hall of Fame. If those guys make it, Dwight has a great chance. If they don't, it's going to be really hard for him to make it.
Mutombo made it, and I'm just like, I don't think he has glorifying stats that should guarantee him to the Hall of Fame. So I don't know what the criteria is.
I think his was more off longevity. His was more of overall. Overall impact as far as international play and stuff like that, and then being one of the first guys on a team that upset a 1 seed as an 8 seed definitely helped his resume.
And opening up that hospital, that did a lot.
True. That is true. I can understand that, but I was listening to, I don't know who I was listening to today. Oh, Ray Lewis, and he was talking about how it was a Gronk news that was going on, and he was talking about how we label a lot of these players too great before we've seen the totality of their whole career. Like, you can have a good 3 or 4 year stretch, and we're like, man, this dude is great. But you look at the totality of your career, and you be like, you know what, that really wasn't that glorifying. And I think that's what we did with Dwight Howard. If you want to be honest, like, we saw what Dwight Howard was going to be, and now looking back, I'm just like, man, I don't know if I can really give you great status.
Well, definitely. Look at the centers around his time too. I mean, it wasn't. Honestly, at that time, Andrew Bynum was one of the most dominant centers in the league, and look what happened to him. He destroyed Dwight in the finals. You know what I mean? And then
he did body him.
He bodied him, dude. And Dwight was the first overall pick. Andrew Bynum took about 5 years to come into his own, but Andrew Bynum set his picks. He hit 80% at the free throw line, and he had nice touch in the paint. That's all you really need from a center in the NBA. And Dwight couldn't do none of those things. And then you had Brook. He almost got traded straight up for Brook Lopez at one point. Like, let's not forget that. And the only reason it didn't go through is because the Nets really didn't have a contingency plan to like build around Dwight. They had eventually got Darren Williams, but if they didn't know they was going to get Dwight Howard, then get Darren Williams, they're not going to make that move, even though they did some stupid ass moves after that. So Dwight has never really been dominant in my opinion. I just think from like a 8-year stretch, the center position was weak, and you see they took it completely out the All-Star game now, and he just took advantage of it and got to the finals, and we kind of glorified him from there.
You have a point. And then speaking of Lopez, man, that trade between the Lakers and the Nets was really, I really liked it.
I liked it because I still think Brook Lopez can give you a couple buckets. Now, man, I'm not saying
the season. What did I tell you about the season he had? I said he had one of the best centers. I mean, season for a center.
I think both of the Lopez brothers, if their last name was Jackson, they would have a lot more respect in the league. And
exactly,
it's all about
and if Brook could actually stay healthy, he'd probably get a lot more respect. The fact that you played in Siberia, because nobody's paying attention to Brooklyn, doesn't help. But the fact that he's not staying healthy playing out there is the thing that really kind of gets him. People really sleep on exactly what Brook keeps in his skill set, but they're going to find out because it'll be out there in LA.
He has the jump.
He'll get a chance to shine.
He got the jumper. He has the post move. He has the good passing abilities, and he put it all on showcase last year. And I'm pretty sure Magic Johnson saw that. And with Magic Johnson, with the move he just made, he made up enough cap space from what I saw that he can pick up 2 max contracts. So LeBron James and that Paul George talk may end up happening. And if you want to be truthfully honest, if Paul George does play with LeBron this year and they end up and leave and go to LA, they may be a threat because that's a nice squad of
defensively.
You have
not enough balls to go around.
That's a lot of big bodies, though.
I did say that too, but it's just gonna be like, can they keep up with the pace of the Warriors? Because on paper, Brook Lopez, LeBron, Paul George, Ingram, they get Lonzo. Man, that's a nice little squad.
Yeah, Julius Randle
coming off the bench. I don't know what Nick Young doing, but
I don't know. Corey Brewer.
But that's a lot of ball dominant personalities on one team with LA. See, the thing that makes it a perfect storm for Golden State right now is that you have 4 guys that have that millennial way of thinking. They don't really care about stats because they want rings because that's their ultimate stat. You're going to run into a problem when it comes to that Lakers team because you have folks that are going to want that shine. They're going to want a certain number of touches. One of the biggest red flags to me that came up as it pertained to Paul George, who I think is an outstanding player, is the fact that he kind of had his little moment in the playoffs when the other guy took the game-winning shot, and he was like, well, I needed to have that ball and this, that, and the other.
Don't bash him at the game.
I kind of understand where you're coming from, bro, but by the same token, it's not a one-man game. It's a 5-man game.
He was open. He just
exactly.
Let me throw this in there. And this is what I meant to be bringing up to DeMarcus. And I said I was going to save this for the show to bring this up. But my valid point is we're looking at, I'm glad you said that. If you look at the totality of what's going on with the Cavs, the moves they're trying to make, it's not going to work because they think they need to get more scoring ability, but you have a whole bunch of ball dominant players that you're trying to bring in. And then you try to, like, Jimmy Butler can move good.
Jimmy Butler will get them a ring.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler will get them a ring.
Because what? He can move.
He don't want the ball on offense. He don't want the ball on offense. He don't care about scoring.
He want to lock up.
He's going to lock somebody down and he'll get his points in transition. He's not going to demand the ball at any point in time. And that's picture perfect for what they want to do.
Because Jimmy Butler, for somebody that plays defense, runs as hard as any superstar I've seen on a fast break.
You have to watch him, and you have to watch him. If you go back and look at those Bulls games, I don't care.
He put pressure on them. He put pressure on the defense. Yeah.
When they lost, when D-Wade went down and they were out the playoffs, go back and watch those games with Jimmy Butler. He single-handedly took over those games and carried that Bull squad. And on top of that, he can give you those big, huge scoring offenses that you need and still lock down the number 1 or maybe 2 and dial him down. But on top of that, the thing that what Paul George is, and everybody loves to say, Paul George is a good player. He was on the rise of being on the cusp of being great. But what Paul George is, I see more of a scoring threat, more of a killer instinct, or more of a all-around threat with Jimmy Butler that I don't see with Paul George. I can't see Paul George give me 50 points if LeBron James and Kyrie is struggling. I can't see Paul George playing consistent defense that they probably gonna need because it lacked last year. If you watch the Pacers game,
he clocked out a lot on defense.
Exactly. Paul George is one of them guys that if he's not heavily involved and he's not the center of what's going on, he kind of checks out. And that's not what you need.
Get a little diva-ish.
Yeah, you can't have that. Who isn't in the NBA today? I mean, let's be completely honest. I mean, it's not a lot of hard hat guys in the NBA like it used to be.
And what you told me, DeMarcus, about if it's true that Boston really turned down a 3rd-round draft pick to get Jimmy Butler, I think that's a joke. We said no. You said a 3rd pick, right?
The 3rd overall. But I kind of like Josh Jackson.
I'm a huge Kansas fan, and I will never say anything bad about Josh Jackson.
I like Josh Jackson.
I like Josh Jackson. I think he can be just as good as Jimmy, and I think you don't have to waste. You know what I'm saying? Because Jimmy could leave in 3 years. You can have Josh Jackson for the next 9.
That's true. But what my thing about that is, if I'm the Celtics, that was a good pick. I mean, if you want to get Josh Jackson, I can understand that, and you're planning for the future because you're planning for the downward spiral of the Warriors or the LeBron tell-off. Can you hear me?
Just gotta wait. You gotta wait 3 years. That's it.
But this is the thing about it that I don't like. If I'm the Celtics, really, and I'm the GM, like, you know, we like to play. We play
it's Danny Ainge, though. Danny Ainge is one of the worst GMs of all time.
I can't say he gets glorified
because he was one of the Celtics. It's like they remember when KC Jones was the coach of the Celtics because he was a part of the Bill Russell Celtics. You know what I'm saying? They bring in all these players that was a part of when they was great. They don't actually look at. I think they best hiring was Brad Stevens.
If I'm okay,
oh yes.
If I'm the GM of the Celtics, I want to get Jimmy Butler because my starting five would have been Isaiah Thomas, Jimmy Butler. I would have ended up getting Gordon Hayward because the Brad Stevenson connection.
You can get something for Avery Bradley too. I think
you can get something for Avery Bradley, and you could have probably struck a deal to guy Brook Lopez, who would have fit in excellently with that system. And you have Olynyk off the bench, Jaylen Brown off the bench. You have Marcus Smart coming off the bench, and you are the team that beat Golden State twice on their run. And when they went on a 73 run, and also last year when they were going on their run. Brad Stevenson has the formula of beating Golden State, and I really would have loved to see that team with Gordon Hayward, with Jimmy Butler, and getting a center to like Lopez to play with Al Horford. They could have contended with the Warriors because they move without the ball nicely.
They can contend, but I think it's smarter to build for the future because, like I said, Boston needs about 3 more years of just consistent playoff action before you actually break that barrier. Look at Golden State. They had to lose to the Clippers, had to lose to the Spurs before they got to where they were.
You're right.
Exactly. It's the natural progression of things, and for the Celtics, I think that Ainge is putting himself in that position with all this stockpiling of draft picks and stuff like that to either go through and swing enough leverage to trade for a big name a la Anthony Davis if they want, or a Jimmy Butler or something like that. But if not, you can also hold it in your back pocket if you're Danny Ainge and you have a brain, and just think, well, in 2 years, LeBron will be in the West anyway, so I can just stockpile and get my talent up. And as soon as LeBron leaves, I'm dominating the East for the next decade. With all them draft picks, oh no, there's no way that they won't dominate. They'll be at least a 1 or a 2 seed the next 8 years in a row.
In 6 against Larry Bird.
And that's true. Or we can say then what you had, DeMarcus, what you had said about the Warriors and them having to get playoff experience and getting that bump and ground. Or you can just say they had to wait to get Iggy and get rid of Jared Jack and then get rid of David Lee so they can put Draymond in so they can actually take off. Or actually get that 3 ball being an emphasis to take off.
That is true as well.
Because if you look at it, I mean, Jared Jack was slowing them down, and David Lee wasn't giving them no defense on the other end. That's why they were losing those series when Blake Griffin and Tim Duncan was giving them work. But then you got Draymond coming in, and you had a consistent Iggy. So I don't know, man. Me personally, I'm in win now mode because I want to be in a story of being the team that stopped LeBron, being that first team finally to stop LeBron from getting to the getting to the finals. That's what I want to do.
It's a lot easier. I get what you're saying. That's a good goal. But if he just leave and then I'm just going to own it, like you just inheriting a finals appearance if you leave.
Man, because I'm like, I can keep Jimmy Butler. I feel like the Celtics can keep Jimmy Butler on name value.
And he may get cheaper.
That is true. That's true.
If Dwayne Wade leave and they start crumbling apart in Chicago, you may get Jimmy for a mid-round pick instead of the 3rd overall.
It's looking like Wade is going to lean into taking that option from what they say. Yeah, they say he's going to take that option
because he got so underpaid with his Miami days that he wants that money too. Because he knows that the Cavs can't afford him, and then he's not.
Nobody can. Well, he got to get that last paycheck before he start ring chasing. Like
pretty much.
Ring chasing,
but I don't even think that D Wade is in ring chaser mode. He's already won his rings. He's already good. He's just going for the paycheck now.
Yeah, what I'm saying is for him to start taking $5 million a year, he got to get that's not going to happen out the way first. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's not going to happen. He'll take $5 million in endorsements. He's not going to take any salary. That's not going to work.
Now
that's not going to work.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think this is to both of y'all? Whoever want to jump on. If you're the Celtics and there was a way that you could swing and get Porzingis, would you make that swing to get him?
Depends on what I have to give up.
If I had to give up my 3rd round, I mean not my 3rd round, my third overall this year. And
nope.
No, you wouldn't.
Kristaps Porzingis to me is not better than the number 3 overall prospect, which in most people's eyes is Josh Jackson from Kansas. So no.
I like Josh Jackson.
I wouldn't.
I think he's going to be one of those future stars in the league because
Josh Jackson has a lot of Kawhi Leonard in him.
Yeah,
he has a lot of Kawhi Leonard properties in him, and that's the thing that makes him so interesting. He's long, he's big, he can play multiple spots, but he's a guy that's coming out of college that's actually better on the defensive side of the ball than he is on offense. And when it comes to doing NBA talent right now, kids that can come in and make an impact right now, it's a lot easier to coach somebody up on getting their shot up and getting better offensively than to be able to get them dialed in more on defense. And that's the thing that makes him more attractive.
Kawhi Leonard, Avery Bradley.
Hey man,
yes, sir.
If you're saying that, so we're saying that we're looking at a replica of Pop and Kawhi Leonard and the Celtics between Brad Stevenson and Jackson.
Because
Brad Stevens has that mindset, and he's of that ilk. He will preach solid fundamental basketball. That's how Gordon Hayward developed so easily coming out of college because he was coachable.
Thank you.
And he didn't have great coaches in the NBA. Snyder's okay, but Brad Stevens prepped him for this.
Yeah, Brad Stevens made Gordon Hayward into what Gordon Hayward is currently.
Yeah, because
Quinn Snyder's just happy that he got the hookup.
Yeah, because his defense is underrated. Gordon Hayward has one of the better two-way defenders in our league. At
the 3 spot, he's a top 10 two-way defender.
I hope Boston lands him. I hope Boston lands him because he's the type of player I need on my team because he fills that void that a lot of teams like Memphis needed or like the Clippers needed. Like the Clippers needed a consistent 3. And he would have gave him that. So he's the type of person that can come in and change your organization. He can make them a better playoff team. Now he's not gonna make them a finals or a championship team, but he'll make them a better playoff team. I'll tell you that.
And see, I'm on the other side of the fence with that. The old school in me just kind of wants to see Gordon take the reins on his util. They got a nice little core of talent on that team, man. They can actually make some moves next year. They overachieved, in my opinion, this year by making it to be a 6 seed. They could easily be a 4 or 3 seed next year. They got some talent on that team.
They were 5th seed.
They were 5th seed? Yeah.
They lost the 5th seed by a half of a game to the Clippers.
Yeah. I mean, they got some talent. They got a good core. And I know if Hayward stays, then George Hill stays. It's kind of like a domino effect as far as keeping a lot of their young talent and stuff like that aboard. But Quinn Snyder's on to something with that talent base that they got right there. If they can build on it, but that's the key. Because I think if Hayward leaves, everybody's gonna be like, I'm out.
See, and I like what you said about that. And me and DeMarcus have discussed that before about Gordon Hayward. If they were able to keep Gordon Hayward, I don't want George Hill. I'm swinging for the fence and going for Lowry because I think Quinn Snyder is good enough as a coach that he can motivate with Kyle Lowry having a team playing team ball where he's not the central focus like he was with the Raptors. I think he can thrive in that team and he can really perfect that team and make them look better. Like him and Gobert can really make a nice little connection, and then him and Gordon Hayward, that can work out perfectly.
Oh, most definitely. And more interesting to that is you can look into a third scenario where they get Lowry and keep Hill anyway. And much like Boston does in their ways of beating Golden State, you can run a truckload of guards at Golden State in the West. That's how Boston kept giving Golden State fits, is because they kept sending guards at them in waves. Whenever you thought somebody was getting tired of defending Curry coming around picks or Clay coming around, they sent 2 more fresh ones in, and they just couldn't keep up with that because then depth became an issue. So, I mean, it's a solid way of thinking. And I think Lowry would actually fit into what they're trying to do in Utah really well.
If he commits.
With Utah and the Bucks, those are my 2 teams that Lowry can go to, and he can really change the culture, and they can really just make that leap to be a real threat. You know, they can be like the old school Boston team and make that. I can see them winning like 40, not even 40, like 50 plus wins with just that addition, in my opinion.
And let's not forget that he actually does have a skill set that blends in with my hometown team being San Antonio born. He looks like a Spurs point guard.
We said
They don't expect point guards to pass. He fits into what they like to do in their system. And that would be a significant upgrade over an injured Parker and a too young to tell yet DeJounte Murray, who I absolutely love.
Me and DeMarcus had said that a few podcasts ago. We did say there's a dream scenario of if they don't get Chris Paul, that Kyle Lowry would be a good.
Yeah, I actually prefer Lowry over Paul.
Him or George Hill. Like even if they didn't get Lowry, George Hill would be a nice.
That's the reunion. Yeah, that's Pop's. Exactly. That's one of Pop's favorite guys. He still to this day says that's his favorite player he's ever coached.
That'd be a free trade. That's sad. A free trade for Indiana.
Hey man, and then you see Paul Gasol, he may end up leaving. So
No, Paul
He said
Gasol
he
is
gonna resign.
opting out so he can re-sign. And
Yeah,
what
for a
happens
whole
with
year.
that is
he's gonna
this.
restructure. Okay,
He's declining the $16 million option. He's going to come back and probably re-sign. They're probably going to give him a
restructure.
3-year deal that's worth 16 total. So he'll
Over
still
so
get
many
the money,
years.
but it'll stretch it over time so
Mm-hmm.
that they can actually free up money. David Lee opting out, and a couple of more things bouncing in their favor. They're actually starting to get up enough money to be able to actually make a serious run at Chris Paul.
I
So it'll
think,
be interesting to see how it goes.
man, if I'm with you, I'm going for Lowry because that's a little bit of youth. Chris Paul can give you that win now mode, but I think Kyle Lowry can give you that
Here's
longevity.
here's where I turn into the bad guy with a lot of folks. I am already experiencing buyer's remorse with LaMarcus Aldridge,
Oh,
You should.
who is a
you
stat
should.
chaser, and does not go into the philosophy that the Spurs have, and that's why I am equally down on Chris Paul because the Spurs are not a team to go to if you are a stat chaser.
That is
If,
true.
if you're too preoccupied with making sure that you got a certain number of steals and a certain number of assists and not really concerned about the actual outcome of the game, I have a problem with that.
Yeah,
I don't
because
care if you have 5 assists. As long as you get us the win, that's all that matters to me.
what did always bother me, it seemed like Chris Paul always had 10 assists. Like why you
He
just stop
always
it?
tries to get 10 assists. No matter if it's smarter for him to take a shot, he
He
wants
tried.
to go through and make an extra pass so he can get his numbers up.
Mhm.
It goes completely against the philosophy of what the Spurs do. And I was born in San Antonio the exact same year that the Spurs came into the league. So I am a lifelong Spurs
Nice,
fan.
nice.
It's
You
it's
saw
one
it
of
from the
those
beginning.
things that it doesn't really work. And that's the thing that San Antonio has always stayed true to themselves with until recently. And it kind of bothered me when they trying to took the chance with the Marcus is they've never really bought into the whole let's go get the stat guy. They go get the piece that fits the puzzle that they're trying to solve.
All right, so as we transition, tell me how you became a Green Bay Packers fan.
My sports fandom is very, very simple. I was born in San Antonio, like I said. The only team that I have to root for in my hometown is the Spurs, and I will do so until I no longer draw breath. Uh, for every other team that I root for, literally, growing up as a military brat, my dad was in the Navy and Coast Guard, so we moved around a
Nice.
lot. Literally, the first time I ever seriously watched any sport, the first team that I liked, that's the team that I rooted for.
Hmm.
So growing up in New York City, the first baseball game I went to was a Yankees game. So I'm a Yankees fan. First hockey game that I went to was a Rangers game. So I'm a Rangers fan. Literally, first NFL football game I watched was in 1983. It was a Monday night football game between
Mm.
Joe Theismann and the Washington Redskins against the original number 12, Lynn Dickey and the Green Bay Packers.
Nice.
Uh, fell in love with Lynn Dickey throwing, excuse me, fell in love with Lynn Dickey throwing all these long bombs to James Lofton. Was hooked, just kept rooting for him and just never really stopped. Never really had a reason to stop. Went through the terrible years with the Blair Keels and Mike Tomzaks of the world, coming all the way around to the Magic Man in my high school years, Don Mikowski, that gave us that first glimmer of hope. And
Mm.
then when he went down in '92, and they brought this
Young
raggedy kid that
gunslinger.
I hated him. Brett Favor that came in, and
Brett Favor.
I'll never forget because the commissioner when they drafted him, that's how they
Yeah.
pronounced his name, Brett Favor. I never forget that. But
Hall of Fame quarterback.
he came in, man, and put the team out there and got their eyes open, and then Reggie following what the Lord told him, quote unquote, to go to Green Bay, and the rest has been history because those two moves right there are the only reason that people talk about Green Bay Packers football right now.
Nice. I love that breakdown, man. How do you view the Packers right now coming off a 10-6 season?
Right now, the thing with the Packers is kind of like a microcosm of the division in general. Uh, there's a lot of things that we can nitpick. There's a lot of things that we can be down on. But there's a lot of things that you can be optimistic about too. With the Packers, not to sound cliche, trust and believe it starts and ends with number 12.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny because when we all sit back 10, 15 years later and talk about all of these myths and legends that these kids are going to be like, man, y'all are crazy. They didn't do all that, this, that, and the other. A lot of those stories will be Tom Brady. A lot of them will be Drew Brees, but a lot of them will be Aaron Rodgers too. He hasn't had the success of a Brady as far as championships or title runs and stuff like that. But I tell anybody, and I will argue anybody to this point, there is nobody that I have ever watched play the position of quarterback better than Aaron Rodgers, as far as a pure skill set is concerned. When it comes to intangibles, arm strength, football IQ, mobility, there has never been a complete package of all of those things that has been quite as good as Aaron Rodgers.
And you're not lying about that, because that game that
some of the throws he made,
that game that he had against the Cowboys, where he showcased that talent, all you could do is sit back
Oh
and say,
yeah.
"Damn."
Well, I mean, you know, he's always going to have his history tied into the Cowboys, because if it wasn't for a Thursday night football game where they knocked Brett Favre out of the game in 2007, you would have never known about Aaron Rodgers' ability to lead the team, because they were getting killed at that point, and he almost led them to a comeback victory. That's what got the ball rolling, as far as Ted Thompson and them saying, well, maybe we can go ahead and move past Brett Favre and give this young kid a shot. And the rest has been history.
A player that y'all did move past is Eddie Lacy. How do you feel about Eddie Lacy leaving, coming off 2,000-yard seasons early in his career?
Eddie Lacy is one of my favorite players, man. I loved him when he was in high school in Louisiana. I loved him when he was in college at Alabama, man. I was super duper happy that we were fortunate enough, a la Aaron Rodgers, to have him quote unquote slide into our laps, because I really didn't think that he would last until the second round. I really honestly didn't think he was going to last until the second round. But he gave us some great years, man. Unfortunately, the weight thing became a problem, and it wasn't necessarily a thing of he wasn't effective. It was just a trickle-down effect of the weight caused you to sustain injuries, particularly ankle injuries. And the funny thing that a lot of people on the outside looking in don't understand is, okay, you have this ankle injury, you're already battling weight problems, and you're a tailback, but that means you can't practice, which means you can't get that cardio in, which means you can't burn those calories to lose that weight. So by the time you come back off that ankle injury, well, I mean, okay, your ankle's okay, but you're still heavy. So the chances of you re-injuring that ankle are going to be pretty high. Yeah. And he's great back, great bruiser. I hope that he has 15 awesome games this year. Just not week one.
Just not week one. I understand that.
Just not week one.
But yeah, you right about that. And looking at Eddie Lacy, he did, and him being one of my favorite players, as me and DeMarcus have said many times, he was the type of player that could really change the game. And like you were saying, we play a lot of fantasy football, so I'm monitoring how his activity is in practice, and you see that he only goes through the walkthrough, or they let him rest Monday and Tuesday, and then he'll go through progression on Wednesday, and they'll see how it is. But you can see that why his weight was building up. But I think Seattle gives him the type of atmosphere and a type of height for him to flourish in a great system, because that crowd getting behind Eddie Lacy and him hearing those noise of the 12th man, I'm telling you, he's going to be a new Marshawn Lynch in my opinion, and he's going to be my fantasy pickup this year.
Nice.
The one thing that works out good for him is that Seattle and Pete Carroll are going to make sure that they get the most out of his talents, and I like the fact that he went to a situation where he's going to get that opportunity
and not get overworked.
On the downside, from a fantasy standpoint, he's going to split too many carries for me to take him seriously. He might be a good red zone threat, but they're going to have Thomas Rawls up there. He's not going to get the majority of the carries. He's going to get a significant portion, especially when they get to the red zone. But he may be that Marcus Allen type guy back in the day that maybe ends up with like 600-700 yards, but he might have 13 or 14 touchdowns.
See, and that's okay. You can go.
And that's the thing about Seattle that's going to work out good in his favor, is because they're not going to overwork him, so the expectation level isn't going to be as high. He's not going to be asked to be the bell cow running back like he was in Green Bay. And then the fact that the sum of your parts around you, particularly on the defensive side, is going to be something that he's never experienced before, because he's never had a defense to fall back on like that before. It's going to be a different kind of atmosphere, and I know that the Seattle fans are going to welcome him with open arms. It's already been really positive from them up in OTAs and stuff like that. He looks like he's in really good shape. He looks like he's really, really focused. So I think it's definitely a good match. I think that was definitely one of the best spots that he could have ended up in as far as teams that needed a tailback are concerned.
Man, I got to tell you, I was so jealous in the NFL draft when I seen the Packers select Kevin King. because I think Kevin King is going to be the next lockdown corner. Length, speed, everything. I love it. That was hands down my favorite pickup. Anybody in the second round, because that guy has top 15 potential. Man, and you got him at 33. How you feel about having Kevin King, dude?
The thing about Kevin King, man, first and foremost, is I paid attention to, because I'm a huge football fan and I love college football too. And I would tell anybody that would listen, man, I was like, because they got on the subject of the kid at the combine, the wide receiver that broke the combine record, that also came out of Washington.
John Ross.
Yeah. And I used to tell him, I was like, okay, well, because they'd be like, oh, well, he's just probably a speed guy. He can't catch, he can't do this.
No, he can run routes.
I said, let me explain something to you. I said he probably played and practiced against the best secondary in the country every single week, because I believe every single starter in their secondary got drafted in this draft.
Yeah, they did.
Starting off with Kevin King, but Kevin King is that unicorn, that freak of nature. I mean, 6'3", 200 plus, 4'4", 340, 40-inch vertical, great ball skills, really good football IQ. And seems to be really, really driven and really, really hungry from all the things that I've seen and heard coming out of Green Bay thus far. He's a kid that's really been a sponge, soaking up a lot of information, and is humble enough to understand that he probably won't come out of the gate starting immediately, but he's ready whenever they call his number.
And with the injury history they had last year in the secondary, they could
use him.
The injury issues is one of those things that's a double-edged sword, because it's one of those things that you hate, but at the same time, it's such a big help, because now I have all these guys that have gotten all this frontline experience that probably would have been buried on the depth chart. I have a Dimitri Goodson and a Legarius Gunter that got a chance to actually go up against the Odell Beckhams and Julio Joneses of the world, for better or worse. Whether they won the battles or lost the battles, they were in the battle, and that's experience that you can't get standing on the sideline. So as long as they can stay healthy, I think it works out better for them. I think that if Green Bay has it the way that they want it to be, you go ahead and you start with Devon House, who you just recently got reunited with coming from Jacksonville, on one side on the boundary. You'll have Kevin King on the other side of the boundary, and you'll have Quentin Rollins and Demarius Randall running your slots. Demarius Randall running the slot, they're already looking at him to play almost to the point of the way Charles Woodson played in the slot when he was there, which I can co-sign with when he's healthy. You need a guy that can roam and do those things and stuff like that. And Demarius Randall, being a converted safety in college, playing corner a la Woodson, is going to be a good help for them. But the key to them is going to be health in the secondary. If they can stay healthy, they have enough athletes back there to be able to cope and hang with a lot of these offenses, but they have to stay healthy. Their margin of error is extremely slim when it comes to that.
Nice, man. Let's talk about the guys that's going to be trying to replace Lacey. We got Ty Montgomery and Joe Williams. Ty Montgomery is looking like a 5th round pick in fantasy. Joe Williams around the 11th round.
Jamal.
Of these guys?
You said
Jamal Williams.
You like Jamal Williams over Ty Montgomery? I think.
No. I was saying Jamal Williams because you said Joe Williams.
Oh, Jamal, my bad. Yeah, Jamal
You're
Williams,
good.
man.
And no, unlike most people are being skeptical about it and stuff like that, there's some things that people have to understand about the history of one Ty Montgomery, who I am a huge fan of. Number one, he played running back for the majority of his life coming up as a kid. He played it in Stanford as well as playing wide receiver, a la the way that they did the Step Fan Taylors and the Christian McCaffreys, where they bounced around their star tailback athletes and kind of moved them around as a jack of all trades and stuff like that. Number two, the thing that people really had to understand was, much like Eddie Lacy, Ty Montgomery had a lot of issues with his weight problems because he's naturally thick. They were trying to keep him under 200 pounds because that's just his natural thing. He's a naturally stocky, thick guy. If you ever see him in person, he looks more like a tailback than a running back. Anyway,
he moves like
people get thrown off by the number. Yeah, people get thrown off by the numbers, but he's over 6 feet. He's 216 pounds right now. He's done extensive work in the offseason to kind of redevelop his core and kind of put on added muscle to take on the responsibilities of the wear and tear of being a tailback. But more on top of that, he's learning more.
Jamal will be able to overtake him some point in the season. Or
I
you
like
think
Jamal.
Jamal is going to be their short yardage guy. I look for him to come in a lot of goal line situations. To
like
be
James Stark style, John Coon.
yeah, but to be perfectly honest, if there's anybody that's going to steal carries and break out in that backfield, it'll be Aaron Jones, the kid out of UTEP.
You think Aaron Jones will break out before Jamal? I like Jamal a little bit.
I like Jamal the way how he looked.
Go watch film on Aaron Jones. The difference between Jamal and Aaron, and that's why I say Jamal is going to get his fair share of goal line and short yardage because that man is a jackhammer in between the tackles.
I think I can see on third down Jones.
Aaron Jones has that I can score from anywhere on the field type explosiveness, and in that offense with a guy like an Aaron Rodgers extending plays and scrambling, Aaron Jones is going to have his chance to make an impact.
Because defense is going to be concerned with Nelson, Adams, Cobb, and Bennett.
Exactly. It's ridiculous, and we'll get to the rest of the offense. But yeah, I'm trying to contain my enthusiasm because they're disgusting this year.
Oh, we can go straight to the offense.
We got Jordy Nelson as a early second round pick, Devontae Adams as a late third rounder, Randall Cobb as a sixth rounder, Martellus Bennett as a seventh rounder. If you can get two of those players, which two do you have to have?
The only two fantasy football players that I trust, not named Aaron Rodgers, on the offense is Martellus Bennett and Jordy Nelson.
You're right about that.
And it's one of those things because of distribution. It's a trend that you have to pay attention to when it comes to Green Bay. And I know most folks outside of me being a cheesehead don't, but Aaron Rodgers has this funny little gift. If I'm not mistaken, he's had an NFL leader in touchdown receptions like 2 of the last 3 years or 3 of the last 4 years.
Yep.
And they've always been a different receiver.
Mm-hmm.
There's nobody that you can just count on and be like, oh, that dude's going to get me 13 touchdowns. It doesn't work like that. But if there's anybody that is a guarantee for that, and it's funny because it's gonna be Jordy Nelson, because going off the logic of his injury, they usually say it takes you 2 years to come back from that. And if that's the case, he was great last year, so he's gonna be a monster this year.
And I'm sorry about that, but you can see if you watch some of those games, you saw he was kind of reluctant to break speed like Jordy Nelson.
Exactly. By the end of the year, he did not have that problem
at all.
Yeah, like the first 4 games, everybody was burying him. Then he just had a 10-game stretch where he was just one of the greatest receivers in the league.
And people don't understand that. They go through and they look. Some of the things that people don't realize about Jordy Nelson and his consistency and stuff like that. Jordy Nelson was the only wide receiver in football that scored in 12 games last year. Nobody else scored more than 10 or 9, if I'm not mistaken. He scored in 12 out of 16 games.
He was Rodgers' go-to. He was his go-to, and you saw it especially in the red zone last year, when they were in pressure situations, when they need to make that run, and he was convincing everybody that Aaron Rodgers still had it going on. That Jordy Nelson was his go-to, and that's the thing I like about him, and that's the thing. And I'm glad you say it about consistency, because if you look in their offense, you can Devontae Adams can give you 12 catches for 144 yards and a touchdown, and the next week give you 2 catches for 13 yards, and you'd be like, what? And Randall Cobb does the same thing. So I would take a flyer on them and just kind of play, darts in 1 week. But like you said, Jordy Nelson and Martellus Bennett, Aaron Rodgers loves a tight end.
Exactly, and Cobb and Adams will have value for you if you play in a points per reception league, because they're going to get catches. They're going to get targets, even with Kendricks and Bennett being there. But the one thing that is the double-edged sword from a fantasy perspective when it comes to the Packers, unless you have Aaron Rodgers, he spreads it out so much. People don't understand. Since 2011, when Aaron Rodgers became the Aaron Rodgers that we all know and see now, like in the red zone alone, Aaron Rodgers has 139 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions.
That's ridiculous.
And they pass
you're not going to get them to turn over. They throw a lot, and they throw you a lot of curveballs because they throw a lot inside of 20 and inside of 10 yards when most teams traditionally run.
Yeah.
And he'll throw to anybody. He doesn't have that tunnel vision to where he's, I see Jordan right there. Well, Jordy's right there, but you know what? I just saw Geronimo Allison right here. Let me slide this into him right quick, because nobody's looking at this guy. Nobody will think that he's going to throw to Allison, and that's the thing that makes him dangerous.
And that's kind of why I'm scared of Martellus, because 7th rounder, you can find like a receiver 1 or receiver 2 in the 7th round, and I feel like you probably be a little better off waiting for a tight end rather than taking that jump and going for Martellus, because like, oh shit, he with Aaron Rodgers. You know what I'm saying? And
I think
what he did with Tom Brady was special.
Oh yeah, and I think that's the thing that's going to rub off is the fact that not only does Martellus send that vibe to Aaron, like, hey, saw what I did last year, made some catches, even though everybody was looking at Gronk, I filled in, did my thing, and Aaron is like, well, hey, I need that
You
guy to
know,
stretch those seams. You know what I'm saying? I need a guy to give me that up and under so that my guys on the outside can actually break free and get open. So I can actually get Randall Cobb more opportunities because they're paying too much attention to you. Whereas last year they didn't have nobody to pay attention to but Randall Cobb.
exactly.
It's different, and they go through and they've adapted a lot of those principles that New England uses. You're going to see them play a lot of big sets. They're going to play a lot of big backfields with Richard Rodgers back there with Ripkowski and whoever the tailback is in some of their big house sets. You're going to see a lot of double tight end sets with Kendricks and Bennett. You're going to see a lot of interesting sets where they're going to go through. And remember, I said this, you're going to see a lot of sets where they're going to have Adams and Jordy on the sides. They're going to have Bennett and Kendricks on the tight ends, and you'll have Randall Cobb actually be the tailback.
I can see that. They did a little bit of that
They did a little
year.
better of that last year. They're going to do a lot more. They're going to do a lot more of it this year because they're going to try to maximize all the offensive talents that they have. And they're fortunate enough to have so many skill position players to choose from that it's gonna turn out to be a really good season. And if you're picking in a clean draft from scratch and not a keeper league, yeah, Aaron Rodgers should be a number one priority for a lot of people because he's going to have a ridiculous season this year.
I can see he's gonna tear it up. His schedule looks very favorable.
It does, and he reminds me of. And the thing I love about Aaron Rodgers is how you was talking about it earlier. Is he reminds me of my favorite quarterback, which is Drew Brees, just a taller version, bigger version of Drew Brees. They have the same mechanics, same footwork, same work habit that I really like. And Aaron Rodgers, that cocky swagger did annoy me for the longest, but then again, I started really. When I play fantasy football more, I really start
you appreciate it
in his game. You see why he can talk shit.
If your quarterback is not a diva, he's not a good quarterback. I don't care what team you root for. Every good quarterback that you've ever seen has a little bit of diva in them. Aaron Rodgers is no different.
Yeah, you just got to RELAX, like boy Aaron Rodgers said.
Sometimes he'll tell you, sometimes he'll let you know, hey man, y'all getting a little bit too hyped. I'm the one that's back here behind center. I'll let y'all know if it's bad or not. Just let us do what we got to do. We'll be okay. And I've learned to trust him in that regard.
What record do you see the Packers finishing with this season?
Right now, if everything went south and we had the same amount of injuries as last year and the running game doesn't click and all that good stuff, nightmare scenario for me, the floor is 9-7. Everything clicks right. That running game comes in, allows Aaron to be even more dangerous and keep that offense unpredictable. If that secondary can click in, especially early in the season when you got to go through those early tests, you start out your first 5 weeks, you got Seattle, at Atlanta, Cincinnati, and at Dallas out of 4 of those 5 games. If they can bounce out and start off strong, stay healthy, and really defend the pass well and stuff like that, I think at the best, they'll probably be around 12-4, 13-3.
I agree because their schedule is favorable the tail end of the year. Really,
the only 2 teams I see them even struggling with is at Dallas and at Pittsburgh.
Well, at Pittsburgh is going to be interesting. At Dallas is kind of interesting, but it's so funny because a lot of people don't really know, but the diva has a significant flaw. When they play against Cincinnati in week 3. That's the only team that Aaron Rodgers has never beaten in his career.
Cincinnati?
He's never beaten Cincinnati. He's like 0-3.
Well, their defense is in shambles to me, so I feel like he's gonna have his way with him.
I've seen him play against worse teams with better squads, and they've still taken L. So until I see it, I can't believe it.
He had a few losses last year that I was just like, huh? How'd you have that?
Yeah, he has the head scratchers. And then you go through and you look at, of course, they're going to have to deal with their division because Minnesota is going to be no joke this year.
Their defense is looking real nice, and then having
I still think they can handle them. I mean, because Minnesota last year was their best chance to dethrone Aaron. They couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Detroit had a huge lead and couldn't do it. I just don't see him losing this.
Oh, we can break down the Vikings, and I can get down to it as soon as we get them. Let me try to sing a few praises for my defense here because I like a lot of the things that they're doing on the defensive side of the ball. because they're actually preaching younger, bigger, and faster now, which is bittersweet to me because, in all honesty, I think that this is the last year that I will see Clay Matthews in a Green Bay Packers uniform.
I can agree with that. I thought it would have been last year.
Yeah,
honestly.
they're holding out. They're gonna try to see if he got a little bit left in the tank this go round. But Mike McCarthy and Ted Thompson are notorious. Once you cross that
The
30,
age mark. Yep.
if you're not lights out like a Aaron Rodgers or a Jordy Nelson, you're probably gonna be
Julius
expendable.
Peppers for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we look at it and people laugh and stuff like that. They let arguably the best offensive guard combination in football walk 2 years in a row. They let Lang go, they let Sutton go, and they were both
Sitting.
30. So they were like, "Nah, we're not going to re-sign you for more money. You're past that age bracket. You got a little too much on your injury history. I know you just made All Pro, but it doesn't matter. We take tackles and turn them into All Pro guards with regularity. So y'all can go."
We can go to break down the Detroit Lions schedule. DeMarcus, who you had for the Packers schedule? What you had them looking at their record? I mean,
I had them at 12-4. The 4 losses I had, I'm sorry to tell you, but I think the Seahawks is going to upset them week
I
one.
knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say
I was gonna say that too.
But like I said, the 4 games I got: Seattle, at Dallas, at Pittsburgh, and then late in the season, I think Carolina going to be playing for some in that tough division. I think they're going to need that dub.
At
But that's
Carolina is one of the ones that I got.
Yeah. I think that at Carolina, cause I don't think Cam Newton's gonna have an MVP season, but I think with the weapons,
Oh, but he got weapons though.
he got a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
He just got to use them. I think the one stat that kind of confused me, I think he had the least passes for 10 yards and under, so he's gonna have to utilize those weapons and get them in space.
Oh yeah, the Dallas game, forget about it.
Okay, you think they're gonna get win?
And I'll tell you why. It's a little bit of superstition. It's a little bit of history. Superstitiously, whether it be in Houston or in Dallas, the Green Bay Packers have not lost in either one of those stadiums ever. They've never lost at AT&T regular season or postseason. They've never lost in Houston ever. They like playing down here. They love playing in Dallas. I remember when Aaron Rodgers was hurt in 2013.
Dallas,
I mean, yeah, Aaron Rodgers was hurt in 2013. We was down 35-3 at halftime. We came back and beat them 37-36. I mean, the history is there. We love playing in Dallas. Love playing in Dallas.
I have Green Bay going 12-4, but I have them losing to the Seahawks, and I have a flip. I have them either losing to the Falcons and beating the Saints, or beating the Falcons and losing to the Saints. That's how I got that flip going. And
is the Saints in New Orleans or in Lambeau?
It's at Lambeau.
They did Lambeau.
Don't worry about it. Saints ain't gonna win that game.
At Atlanta, that's in a dome. I think they kind of favor Aaron a little bit.
But that's the thing about it. See, when
the two things that favor him in the Atlanta game is the fact that it's early in the season.
Exactly.
And they're dealing with a new offensive coordinator in Atlanta, and the Packers will be relatively healthy. And whenever they're healthy, I'm gonna ignore that shade, by the way. Whenever they're healthy, they give Atlanta a pretty good game. Before that NFC Championship game, we've pretty much split our games over the years, and we've gone back and forth. And they've been like 3 points or less pretty much every game.
They have some of the best shootouts that I've seen. A couple Monday night games that they had.
Yeah, they do. It's a fantasy bonanza when they play on the cool. Yeah. Actually, when they play the Saints, you can go ahead and just. Well, I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's a shootout a lot of times with Drew Brees in them.
But Drew Brees is going to be playing outside, so that's the only thing I'm kind of worried about.
And that's why I said don't worry about it. It's going to be a loss. They don't play very well outdoors, especially if it's cold outside.
Then I got them sneaking for the Steelers. I got them losing to the Steelers. And this is my other upset. See, he talk about the Panthers. See, this is my season where I think that...
Don't say Tampa. Don't you say Tampa.
Tampa Bay, I say this is the rise of Jameis Winston.
Hey, man, I know we're talking about the NFC North and stuff like that, man, but on the NFL overall, man... People better watch out for the Buccaneers, man. They're going to do some damage this year.
Man, I said
they're going to hurt a lot of people's feelings this year.
This is the year.
Doug Martin can be half of what he was in 2015.
I'm telling you, this is the year of Jameis Winston. I think he takes that leap. Jackson gives him that over the top that he needs, and then I think Mike Evans is about to just have a all of a year.
I mean, you go through with that, but then you look at OJ Howard, and then on top of that, man, people are sleeping and do not understand how good this kid from Penn State, Chris Godwin, is.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, that
we
dude
talked
can blow
about
the
him.
top off. He can blow the top off of defense just like Deshaun
just like
Jackson
Deshaun
can.
Jackson.
Man, I'm telling you, watch out for them Bucks. But I got that L coming for Green Bay on that one. I don't know
I
why.
can see that one happening because they have that weird little history. They used to be division rivals, so it's one of those things. But Tampa Bay, I think, is going to make some major moves and surprise a lot of people this year.
I think so too, man. I have to agree with you on that one.
All right, man. We can jump into the Lions real quick. I mean,
Let's
it's
do
not
it.
a lot of positives going on for the Lions. I mean, if fantasy wise, I feel like it's Stafford or nothing because you really don't know what kind of weapons is going to go off week to week. I mean, look at what Marvin Jones did a couple weeks. Look
And
at
then
what
he went goodbye bye. He went APB on him. He was out of there. I don't know what happened to Marvin. He just fell out of the
M-
offense.
it's kind of like
Marvin and Golden Tate suffered a lot in that offense in the midst of Matthew Stafford having the best season of his career for two really big reasons. Number
Spreading the
one,
ball
they had no running game to make people come off of them on
zero.
at
coverage because
all.
all their running backs got
Zach
hurt.
Zenner was the
Yeah,
lead
yeah.
running back at
I
the
mean, theoretic down. You had such high hopes for Amir Abdullah down.
Down.
done.
Yeah, I mean, when's the last time you seen a dude with two Z's in his name do anything in NFL? I'm just saying. You
That's
know,
And
true.
they were gonna bring back
it's just
Joy
one of
Bell.
those weird
It got so
things.
bad they were gonna bring in Joy Bell back, and I'm just like, whoa, times are not that hard. I hope not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's not that bad. But they got Amir Abdullah saying he a 5th round pick. I think that's too high. I don't trust him. I'd shoot more for
No.
Theo Reddick in the 10th round, especially in the PPR, because at
PPR,
least
yeah.
I know he's gonna get his Golden Tate in the PPR, 6th round. I'll
Golden
take
Tate
that.
is legit in a PPR. One of the guys that's probably going to be a sleeper this year, depending on where his health is at. If Eric
Kenny.
Ebron can stay healthy
Oh,
at
of
tight
course, because
end, he'll
he's
put up some
13th
numbers.
round.
Yeah, he'll put up
That's
some
what
numbers.
I would take Eric Ebron 13th round over Martellus in the 7th. I'll take that 6th round gap.
I'm not taking
Yeah, I'm not high on taking tight ends early at all. Anyway, I'm just not.
me neither, but I'm not taking Ebron because he's burnt me way too much with his
He
injury.
got me the
And I
last
feel
2
you.
years, but
He snuck me. I think he snuck me last year where he had like a one catch for 3 yards, and I was just like, "Yo, you playing nobody? What are you doing?" And just watching the thing about him and Stafford is
tight ends push you around, man.
Stafford spread. He's starting to get to the point where he's starting to spread the ball a little bit more,
Mhm.
like Aaron Rodgers, and that messes up everything for me fantasy wise. Because with Ebron, he will be wide open in the middle of the field, and Stafford would not go to him at all. And I don't know if it was offensive line problems or
It's gonna be
Well,
worse.
their line was terrible. Their line had to be broken down and pretty much completely reconstructed this offseason.
And the
So
left
that was a
tackle got
big
hurt.
majority.
He's
The
missing
left tackle, Taylor Decker, just got hurt in OTAs. They went through and traded with the Rams to get Greg Robinson, kid out of Auburn. It used to be the number 2 pick. To try to see if they can revive his career. And a change of scenery might do him some good. The kid out of Alabama, Cyrus Conjuo, is another tackle that they got to try to replace Decker until he can get healthy enough to start. But I mean, they go through. They've made some other things. They got some talent on the line. It's just a matter of getting in the mesh and to stay healthy. Picking up T.J. Lang from Green Bay was a really big part of that. That'll help out their run game definitely, and it'll help keep that up the middle pressure off of Matthew Stafford. But as far as from fantasy standpoint is concerned, there's not a lot of bright spots in Detroit's offense other than Matt Stafford. Stafford is,
and that's if you get him late. That's if you get
you'll have good late. You can get late round value, but there's nobody I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I got to get him in the 3rd round. I got to get him in the 2nd. No.
Yeah, because you compare him to even if you want to compare him to Rodgers, he don't have a Jordy Nelson to where you can select him in the 2nd round and know that you may get 100 yards or a touchdown.
Yeah, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees on Detroit's offense for any of that.
That's why I want to hit Detroit to get like Eric Decker or Jeremy Maclin because they needed that number 1 type of receiver that could, really give you that legit threat.
Calvin Johnson, shit, that's what they need.
He ain't coming back. He returned their money back. He was
Calvin Johnson gave them that check back quick. He was like, "No, we good."
They didn't ask for it. Like, here. I don't want
you can keep that. Nah, you can have it. I don't want it. But yeah, what do you got their schedule looking like? I mean, what do you got their schedule looking like?
For Detroit, man, a lot of their stuff is going to come out of how well some of these pieces in place mesh. And for them, their defense is going to have to start bouncing back and showing up a little bit more. And they've got some pieces there, but they just don't have
I like
enough
Tez
pieces.
Tabor, but I don't think Tez Tabor is ready like Kevin King is. But
Yeah, I mean, I like him, and he'll get in the mix. He won't have to start immediately because they'll have Darius Slay and Nevin Lawson out there, DJ Hayden they picked up in free agency and stuff like that. Their safeties are decent, but their front seven is going to have to come through. Ziggy Ansah is going to have to get out there and get after it. It's a contract year, so he'll be motivated. They got the young guy Cornelius Washington to help him out on the other end.
Davis in the first round.
Yeah. They go through their linebackers are going to be the hallmark as far as what carries them. The last time Detroit was really making statements on defense, they had DeAndre Levy and those guys there. They've moved on from them. They brought in Paul Warlow from Atlanta, who's a tackle machine, which should help them in the middle. But then you got the Tahir Whiteheads, Jared Davis, like you said, kids they just drafted, and some other pieces of the puzzle. But for me, I don't see them really doing anything outside on the high end of probably being 8-8.
I have
that's what I see too.
I have them lower than 8-8 because I got them losing Cardinals, Giants, Falcons, Panthers, Saints, Green Bay, and Steelers.
I'm not saying because they had what 9 games that came down to the last
to the wire. I don't see the wire games.
Oh yeah, those balls aren't going to bounce their way. Their balls aren't going to bounce that way. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to come on here as a Packers fan and show my obvious hate for my division rivals. So I'm going to give you guys the optimistic number. That's why I said 8-8. But that's the absolute best that I see them doing.
I think that's the
8-8. Yeah, that's the extreme ceiling is 8-8.
If everything goes right, 8-8.
Because
they just don't have enough horses on defense and they don't have enough production on offense.
Exactly, because they can beat the Bears twice, they can beat the Vikings maybe twice, and they may
No, they'll get swept by the Vikings and they're going to get swept by Green Bay.
Well, then they're not winning nothing then because they're not beating.
They'll get swept by both of those teams.
Yeah, because looking at the schedule, I kind of want to go lower, but I'm just gonna leave it at that right now. Because a lot of the dubs that I even got, I'm not confident at Baltimore no more. I'm really not confident at Cincinnati no more. I'm not confident in Carolina no more. There's 3 of the dubs I gave them.
Yeah, I'm not confident at Minnesota. I'm not confident in them first 3 games for sure. Because Arizona, the Giants, and ATL. Oh my God.
Okay, so
4 straight out the gate.
I got them losing more than 4. I got them getting that first win in the round
to the bye week.
So basically, I got Detroit looking at the next round of college players coming out to see who's the next great tailback, who's the next great wide receiver coming out.
The only team that I can see them. Oh, I don't know who's the star coming out because I got to look at college. I got to get my mind ready for college. But I'm so.
Oh no, that's a whole different ball of wax.
Man,
but make sure y'all invite me out for that show because I'll darn sure have a lot to say then too.
Oh, no doubt.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. We're definitely coming. You're definitely gonna be back, man. I don't even know why you're tripping on that.
It don't even seem so for right now. I say a high of 8-8, and I see it a low of like.
Oh, bro, a low they can go 3-13. They can go 3-13 easy. If the wheels fall off, they can go 3-13 easy.
Yeah.
Oh, if those game-winning touchdowns turn a game,
yeah, buddy.
3-13.
And with the first pick, the Detroit Lions select. Yeah, you can hear that.
They may mess around and lose to the Bears if Jordan Howard is cooking either one of them games.
Oh, I hate the Bears when everything is all said and done. Exactly, the Bears ain't too much worse than the Lions, to be honest. The Bears suffered. Huh? The Bears suffered through a record number of injuries for their team last year. But they're not that far behind the Lions at all.
Well, let's talk about them Vikings then.
Oh, my God. Yeah, the thorn in my side, the pain in my ass.
So how did it feel to have them start out undefeated then not even make the playoffs? I know that felt a
little the thing about it is this, and you have to understand as a lifelong rival and guy that loves to make fun of those Vikings, as we call them in the land of cheese and touchdowns. The thing you have to oh yeah, baby, you got the Vikings, you got the teddy bears, you got the Motor City Kitties. We do it all, baby. We do it all.
That's some good names.
But the one thing that you got to understand about them, man, is when it comes to the Vikings and in the history of that division and stuff like that, man, I can ultimately begrudgingly give respect to the Lions and I can give respect to the Bears because they got trophies in their trophy case for all the glitz and glamour and all the 15-1 seasons and great offensive displays and Randy Mosses and Randall Cunninghams and all. They've never won anything.
Mm-mm.
They talk like they talk like they've won something, but they've never won anything. So at the end of the day, we have that phrase that is popular with the young kids nowadays. Vikings are going Viking at some point. It was just a matter of time.
They crumbled fast because at one point,
their running game, they're a team that's predicated with Mike Zimmer. They like to be a bit more ball control, and they like to have that running game. Once that running game fell off, it was just a matter of time because Sam Bradford was not about to throw for $4,000 and 40 touchdowns to carry them like that.
Oh, no.
He had a great season, but their offense just isn't built like that. And then when you got your defense being on the field for 35, 40 minutes every game, eventually, I don't care if you're the 85 Bears, I don't care if you're the 2000 Ravens, whatever. If you're on the field for 35, 40 minutes a game, you're going to lose. You're going to lose.
Texans felt that a few years.
Hello. You can have an all-world defense, but if you're on the field for 2/3 of the game, you're going to lose.
And that's the problem I see facing.
From the fantasy aspect, man, it's not a lot of players on this team I want to use.
They are a gold mine of sleepers, though.
Maybe Stephon Diggs if you get him at the right price.
Man, I like Adam
Diggs and Thielen you can get at a mid-round pick. Cook you can get before all the hype starts off. They got some pieces out there that you can get. Kyle Rudolph is a top 10 fantasy tight end. They got some pieces there.
Really. Top 5. I mean, if he get the right amount of targets, and if he slipped to like the 9th round, I'll take him. I'll take Kyle Rudolph all day.
Only reason I wouldn't put him top 5 right now is I think that they're going to actually get their running game kicked off with Latavius Murray and Dalvin Cook, and it's going to take away touches from him, particularly in the red zone.
What do you feel about Dalvin Cook dropping? Why do you think he dropped?
Oh my God!
This is probably one of the best running backs in the draft.
Oh my God! Okay, let me preface this again. Like I told you, military brat. I'm a weirdo. First college football game I ever saw, Florida State, 1986. Fell in love with Deion Sanders. I've been a Seminole ever since. Mm-hmm. Dalvin Cook is that deal. The only thing that killed Dalvin Cook is because people in this day and age, because we love to be judgmental and spot on and everything else. Oh, well, he got too many homeboys around him. His entourage, quote unquote, is going to be a problem. And that's what shied away a lot of people because literally it was a coin flip in Green Bay's war room between taking him or Kevin King. And that's the only thing that turned him off. Literally, that's the only thing that turned him off.
That would have been a nice pickup for them, Green Bay.
Oh, they were in a win-win. They were in a win-win situation with that. They could either got the tailback that they needed, or they'd have got the DB that they needed.
A 6'3" cornerback may give you 10 years. An elite running back may give you 5.
Like 3.
Exactly.
Let's give them 3 because you see how running backs are coming in and out real quick.
And then the other part about it too, when it comes to running backs, it's almost in this day and age the way it is for quarterbacks as well. A lot of success out of today's tailbacks and quarterbacks is really, really dependent on the team and system that they get drafted into.
True.
If you go square peg into a round hole, I don't care what kind of talent they got, they're not going to be good. If you try to force feed them into a system or into a way that goes against their natural skill set and instinct, they're not going to produce. And then all of a sudden we want to label them a bust.
Not to sound like a hater, but I don't think Chris Johnson would have been as successful if he went anywhere else with Tennessee. Because
there is no hate attached to that whatsoever. Because they gave him a free for all.
They catered the offense to him. He was out there running like receiver screens. I'm like, dude, who does this at running back?
Another good case in point for something like that. Honestly, you wouldn't see the same type of career, in my opinion, for LaDainian Tomlinson if he did not play in a San Diego offense.
Marty Ball was LT.
Man.
LT or bus.
Bruh.
Almost 30 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's not a lot of teams that's gonna be force feeding you to rock like that. But if you got a talent like that, though, can't be mad at him either.
Can't be mad at it.
Yeah.
So what you got they record breaking down as?
Minnesota is going to be interesting to see because of the simple fact that everybody looks at the collapse after starting out so great and this, that, and the other. The things that they miss, Sam Bradford had a great year. He did 71%. He didn't 71% completion percentage on 20 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions, and he couldn't pass it down the field. Number one, because they had no play action. Yeah. Everybody knew, except for Green Bay, that he was going to throw to Diggs if he threw deep. So it kind of limited him. Yeah, it kind of limited him. But in that being said, he still threw for a ton of yards. He threw to 20 touchdowns, only had 5 picks, 70% completion percentage. If he puts those same kind of numbers up this year, They could win 11 or 12 games.
Now let me ask you. No,
Easy.
see, okay, but you say that, and the thing I say about with the Vikings is they're off. They need another offensive tackle, and they may need another big wide receiver to be that 12-win type of team because Sam Bradford was backing up. I mean, he back, and then he was the linebacker was all in face already.
Well, let us not forget that technically they've already addressed that wide receiver situation. They just didn't play him. Because they have one man by the name of Laquan Treadwell from Ole Miss that they drafted last year that they didn't really use.
Cordell Patterson.
They didn't really use him that much. That's a big body. That's a great possession guy. He's sort of a very poor man's Julio Jones from a skill set standpoint because he doesn't have that same kind of breakaway speed. But as far as the ball skills and the body size, he's good.
So he's like Alshon Jeffrey.
Box him out. Yeah.
So he's like Alshon Jeffrey.
He's kind of like Alshon, but it's just I don't know if it's the Bear thing, but I just don't think very highly of Alshon Jeffrey.
Oh man,
I do think coming out of college, Laquan Treadwell had way better hands than Jeffrey had at South Carolina. Because
I will agree with.
Jeffrey was very inconsistent from what South Carolina needed out their receivers, and
you
at least seen what Laquan Treadwell, regardless of how they got there.
Yeah, Laquan was making plays.
He was very dominant at Ole Miss.
Yeah, Laquan was making plays. Yeah. So from that standpoint, they still got stuff to work with. They still got another SEC kid, Jarius Wright, that can help them out in the receiving core too. And then you go through and you look at their tight ends. You forget, you got Kyle Rudolph there, but they just drafted that kid to stretch the seam out of Virginia Tech. So that's another piece of the puzzle right there. Because that dude has legit wide receiver speed with tight end
body. Yeah.
So that's going to help out Sam Bradford. And then you go through and you kind of have a more reliable two-headed monster at tailback because, again, you have Dalvin Cook, which is, guaranteed to be excited about. But you also got Latavius Murray, who's not nobody to sleep on. He's not nobody to sleep on. But he has to get healthy. He's still banged up right now. But if he can come in and give them that 1-2 punch, they're going to be very, very hard to deal with. They still have problems on the line that they'll have to work out. Protection issues and stuff like that, because the one flaw that Sam Bradford does have, he's an absolute statue. He's not moving nowhere
at all.
He's not moving nowhere.
And that's why I got him. That's why I got him going 9-7.
I can see them on the very high end. Like I said, if everything clicks and they just have a magical season, if they can get past that Green Bay hump, they might be able to win maybe 11 games. I honestly see them going around 9-7 or 10-6. But I also see them probably being that second wild card in the playoff picture. And they're going to be a team that nobody's going to want to play due to that defense. Nobody's going to want to see them due to that defense.
Xavier Rhodes running around back there.
Xavier Rhodes, if Trey Waynes progresses, you still got old man Newman back there. You got Harrison Smith and Sendejo back there at the safety spots that will knock your head clean off and not think anything about it. Now, this is the part that I actually can give Vikings fans props about. If anybody can sit there and take pride in their defense, it's Minnesota, because at all three levels, they pretty much have elite talent. They got elite linemen, they got elite linebackers, and they got elite corners. They're all nasty, they're all fast, and they can all hit.
And I feel like Xavier Rhodes was the MVP at one point.
Hey, man, you're never going to hear me talk down against the Seminoles. So, I mean, yeah. And he's another guy a la that Kevin King. He's that big body,
that's
that fast guy.
That's what he remind me of, man. And I feel like Green Bay seen what Vikings had. Like, you know what? We need to match.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm Kevin Durant in this thing. It's a copycat league. If I can't beat him, I'm going to join him.
You're going to join him, man. Hey. The Vikings look like the NFC North version of the Seattle Seahawks to me on the defensive end.
Yes, actually, to me, they're actually better top to bottom. To me, they're better top to bottom because their linebackers overall are better with Kendricks, with Anthony Barr, and their defensive ends to me are a little bit more explosive because when you go through and you got a Danielle Hunter, a Everson Griffin, a Brian Roberson, a Dayton Jones that you just got from Green Bay, who's an actually pretty good run stopper / pass rusher to go through, and then your middle is solid because you got the Jaleel Johnson that you just drafted, you got the Tom Johnson and the Jerome Limbaugh holding down the DT spots, and then the fact that you go through and you have that mindset with your coaching staff because Zimmer is a defense guy. He's a 4-3 guru. Like he teaches the 4-3 better than anybody in football, in my opinion.
Yep.
And
I believe it.
That's why the Bengals were so good for a long time.
Man, and I mean, you
That
go
defense was on
through
point.
and the biggest difference between the Bengals teams that he had and this team that he has is the linebackers.
The linebackers.
His linebackers are
was okay. His linebackers were
ferocious.
okay with the Cincinnati. Now he got great linebackers.
Great
he got sideline to sideline headhunters everywhere.
They know each other. Like that's the perfect thing about it. Like these guys played together for real. And now
I literally hated that when they got. I said they drafted both these motherfuckers.
And I wanted Kendricks, man. I liked Kendricks.
Yeah, Kendricks nice.
Kendricks is legit. Kendricks is legit. He's a really good talent, man.
We don't have to talk too much about the Bears because I don't see no.
Oh, we can talk plenty about the Bears. Don't discriminate. We can talk about them teddy bears.
Jordan Howard is a bright spot. That's it.
Let's do it like this. And let's remember a little bit of history first. And it starts with their coach. John Fox is the ultimate fix-it guy. He's like Bill Parcells. He'll come to teams and turn them around quick, usually in 3 or 4 years or less. A signature of John Fox teams is workhorse, ground and pound with that bell cow tailback. You saw it in Carolina with Stephen Davis. You saw it in Denver when he tried it with Noshawn Marino and those guys. And now he's got one with Howard. And he's got a good backup in Langford because if he hadn't got hurt, he'd have probably took some of those carries too. But they have a good two-headed attack. And that's going to help them out as far as getting this system in their passing offense together because the parts when you look at them all distributed out don't look that attractive. It doesn't look like much. But when you really think about them combined, they're actually pretty talented. It's just the fact that you have to bank on that talent actually coming. Yeah, because you got the Kendall Wright that they brought in. You got Kevin White, Victor Cruz. You got the leading receiver from last year, Cameron Meredith. You got Marcus Wheaton that they got from Pittsburgh. I mean, they have talent.
They got slots. Those are slot receivers. Those are like number 3 because Cameron Meredith.
Well, I mean, the two dudes that they expected to be number ones are both gone. So, I mean, it's really nothing they can do. And the guy that actually had my name on the team, which I hated, and I'm so glad he left for the Jets, Marcus Wilson from Washington State. He went to the Jets this offseason, but they have talent. They got some good tight end talent with Zach Miller if he can stay healthy. Deion Sims is pretty good coming from Miami. And then the kid that they drafted, this Adam Sheehan kid, small school guy, but 6'7", 278. Yeah. I think if he got any kind of talent, he's going to be legit. 6'7", 278, and you can move. Oh, you got a spot in the league, homie. Especially in Bear Country. All that snow and all that cold. Oh, yeah. Get ready for them check downs.
That's Zach Miller 2.0 right there.
But yeah, I don't like Langford. I mean, Langford is a good backup, but the reason why I feel like he wasn't gonna keep a hold of that starting position is because he's not good in breaking tackles.
He's not a dynamic runner. He's just a good hammer.
He's just a body.
He's just a good hammer. He's a hard inside the tackles runner. He's not gonna give you too much in the way of wiggle. He's not gonna elude or duck anybody. He's gonna give you pad on pad contact and hopefully he's gonna fall forward. Yeah. He's gonna give you that 3 yards in a cloud of dust, like classic. He's gonna give you that 3 yards in a cloud of dust. If it's 3rd and 2, put Langford in. He got it.
Oh yeah, he got that first down, but I see him going 3 and 13 or a little bit worse.
I got 2 and 14.
Well, there you go.
14. I don't see them.
I can't believe I'm the nicest person on this poll. I can't believe I'm the nicest person on this poll because I actually have them.
There's no hope in their offense with Mike Glennon. I mean, he had a flash season with Tampa Bay, but I can't see him doing anything with the limited wide receiver help because, like I said, when you bringing in like Victor Cruz and you have Meredith and Kevin White. There's nobody. They're all like number 2 or 3s. It's like having a whole bunch of Randall Cobbs on.
The funny thing about that though. The funny thing about that is it's not going to be dependent on the offense as far as the success of the offense. And it sounds weird to say, but you have to think of John Fox in the same way that you think about Pete Carroll. Their offense is going to be successful if their defense can click because. Tell me how many number ones Russell Wilson has had to throw to since he's been in Seattle. Legit number ones.
But the thing is, I put Tate and Doug Baldwin over Meredith, Karen.
And you can do that, and that's cool. I'm not saying that they're not necessarily, but the thing about it is their offensive success isn't predicated on having number 1 receivers to throw to. It's on having that jackhammer to beat you up with so they can throw to them number 2s who look like number 1s when they fool you on play action.
I mean,
That's the same thing that John Fox wants to do. It's the same exact thing.
That's true, but I want to see how this going to look.
He can do it if Kevin White just stopped being a bum.
And that's my thing. They've been so snake bit with hurt wide receivers. They technically have addressed this problem the last 3-4 years in the draft. It's just that all the people that they drafted kept getting hurt.
Brandon Marshall, and then when they got Alshon, then Alshon gets hurt. Then they bring Kevin White. What does he do? Get hurt.
Man, they have so much hype behind Kevin White, and he's super flamed out.
Yeah, man, he stayed getting hurt. He was a fantasy bum. Like he was like my sleeper. I picked up and I was like, okay, he gonna pan in when Alshon gets hurt. I'm gonna throw him in, and he gonna dump and did nothing. Just stayed on IR, and it's like, what you doing? But Jordan Howard and Zach Miller are my two go-to. Zach Miller, like you said, can stay healthy. He was having a great season last year.
Oh man, Zach can tear it up if he stays healthy. But that's like mission impossible.
The Bears are like mission impossible and staying healthy, man.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. It's not so much that they lack talent. It's just the fact that they're so snake bit, and none of us has any faith in them staying healthy, let alone staying productive on the field. Well, and it's just going to add up to losses.
They're not even making smart moves in the off. They got raped by the 49ers in the draft. Like a first-year GM.
We're not even going to talk about that.
A first-year GM should not come in and get as much as he got for a person they wasn't going to take. They shouldn't have got this much. That's crazy.
And that's crazy.
They just full got it. They didn't even have a 3rd-round pick or a 6th or 7th-round pick this year. Like, come on, dude. I like the Eddie Jackson pick.
It's sad. It's sad because we're going to go through, and John Fox, in his typical fashion, is going to develop them a nice core of talent, but he won't be the coach. He won't be the coach by the time they're actually good again. Because, yes, like you said, Eddie Jackson, great pickup to go alongside Quentin Demps. You got Prince Amukamara and Marcus Cooper that they brought in because Kyle Fuller got in the doghouse and flamed out after he got hurt completely.
And he was so good.
Yeah, like he went from shine to in the doghouse immediately.
Take your jersey out.
The draft pick from last year, linebacker Leonard Floyd. We're trying to see how he can recover from his concussion thing. It took him 2 months to recover from his concussion.
And he's still kind of hurt. He kind of admitted
exactly. That's going to be a red flag going forward. So you got him. You got Danny Trevathan, who couldn't stay healthy last year. Jarrell Freeman, who actually with Trevathan makes a great 1-2 punch for the 3-4 that they like to play at inside linebacker. You got Pernell McPhee on the outside, on the other side of Floyd. So they have some pieces in place. Their D ends, Akeem Hicks, Jonathan Bullard. Oh, those dudes are severely underrated. Yeah. And they're going to make some noise this year. They're actually to me on a position by position basis outside of running back, D-line is actually their second strongest position in my opinion. With Bullard, Akeem Hicks, they have a strong rush for that 3-4. Those guys are classic 3-4 ends. They got the size to stop the run, but they're still agile and quick enough off that first step to actually rush the passer. It'll be interesting to see how they work that in, but if everybody behind them can't stay healthy, it won't really matter what they do.
And the Bears will be picking in the top 3 again.
I
give them top 5. I give them top 5.
So yeah,
you more modest than we are, man.
Like I said, I'm trying to be a rival, but I'm trying to be, a little bit nice about it. Now, if you call me again and we talking during the season, I might not have anything good to say about any of these teams.
I'm gonna tell you right now, we're gonna give you first crack to pick whatever AFC division you want. Just let us know right now, live on air.
AFC division that I want right now. Oh, I gotta keep it local because I'm down here and I got some things to say because I went to high school with his parents, and I'm very happy to see him achieve his dream coming true of being a Texan for one Mr. Deontay Foreman. So I would love to do the AFC South.
Cool.
All right, definitely. We will definitely bring you back on for the AFC South.
Man, I appreciate you guys so much, man.
A special thanks to you, Marcus, man. I mean, you didn't have to take the time out your day to just hang out with us regular guys and have a little water cooler talk, but that's what it is, man. Like I say, the people's perspective is important because as fans, we are the consumers.
Yeah, exactly.
So people should be able to actually hear what we got to say because I feel like a lot of people have more knowledge in the game than some of these boneheads we see on these pregame.
Exactly.
I agree with that as well. And you guys got to make a deal. You got to make a deal with me.
Talk to us.
I'm a Packers fan. We have a group out here called the Cheddarhead Pack Nation of Houston. It's the largest Green Bay Packers fan club outside of the state of Wisconsin in the world. Mm-hmm. We have 4 different sports bars in the city that we watch our games at.
Okay.
I went to one
I
with a
live in
friend
the
of mine.
humble area.
His name was Tony. You know Tony Galvan? He stayed right in your area. Yeah, that's my
I
backup
live
guy.
in I live in Humble, and we have a bar right there in the Atascocita. You guys have to come out and join me one week so we can show y'all a
tell,
good time.
tell us the game. We may do some
Yeah,
live.
we'll be there. We'll be there.
Hey, you
Let's
can
look at the
pick
schedule
any
real quick.
you can pick any game you want besides Atlanta and Dallas because I plan on being at both of those games.
Hold on. Let's do
Nice.
that. Let's do that week 1 Seattle and Green Bay game.
Let's do it.
It is at 4:30, so we can make that.
We can make that.
We can catch the early times and then get right over there.
It would be my pleasure, man. First round's on me.
Okay,
Man,
we'll
there
be
we
there.
go, man. There we go, man. Once again, special thanks to Marcus Wilson for stepping out with us. Anything you got to say, Marcus, before we get up out of here?
Hey, man. Again, I appreciate you guys for giving us, as you say, regular fans a chance to have our voices be heard because, yeah, we do have a lot to contribute. Sometimes it takes more than having that, oh, I've been in this league or I've done this coaching or that coach. That don't mean that you
Exactly.
really know about the game, you know. People out here, we sit and we love to sit and be passionate about our teams and about our players and we live vicariously through those great moments that we experiences, whether they're great wins or heartbreaking losses. So, you know, it's always good to get that different perspective. You know, we're not being pushed by ratings or by a paycheck to say this or say that. I'm not going to sit here and Stephen A. Smith you or Skip Bayless you
Oh no, we
to
don't
try to
need
get
that.
likes or anything like that. I wish you guys all the best, man. Like I said, anytime y'all want me to come back, man, just let me know. I'm in there like swimwear. Hopefully, I can sit here and gloat around February when my boys make this Super Bowl run. I can see Aaron get him a second ring, but if not, either way it goes, it's going to be football and it's going to be great, and there'll be plenty to talk about, man. And it's a pleasure, it's a privilege, and I look forward to doing it again.
That's what we like, casual conversations with casual people.
There it is. There it is. What you got to say, Griff?
Most definitely.
I got nothing to say, man, but I'm gonna be checking out that Queen Sugar as when I log off on this podcast.
Yes.
Y'all check that Queen Sugar out. You know, I like to have a little plug in. Me and DeMarcus gonna go. He wants to talk about All Eyes on Me. I'm gonna check it out this weekend, next week.
So am I.
And then also, on top of that, Tupac, I checked out Cars 3, so I'll get my review next week with saw with the little fella. It was a good movie. So yeah,
That's
the Queen
what's up.
Sugar is the man, it's the shit in my opinion.
Nice, man.
Oh, it is.
Nice, man. I hope both of you guys had enjoyed your Father's Day weekend too. You know, it's
Yes,
big
sir.
salute to all the dads out there.
Most
But
definitely.
as for now, this has been Fish and Grits, and you guys have just been served.
Y'all enjoy.